your number one source for local news. This is WRAL, coverage you can count on.
Hey, thanks for being here at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty. Pretty big day for our area. President Trump visited Fort Bragg. He gave a speech, sat through a military show of force. The media was not allowed in the front row for the demonstration, but we did just get some new video we want to show you of the whole thing. Check this out. This is a lot closer than what we've been able to see so far. You saw the big explosion there. You can see the troops from the ground. A little later, some of them were talking to the president. We saw choppers that were landing in a field. It was all very, very interesting. I mean, that's pretty cool to see up close. We got a much better view of the paratroopers as well and some of the work that they were doing. Not just the soldiers, they got the dogs in the field there as well. Now, of course, these aren't the only videos we got a hold of. Many of the president's advisors and staff members posted videos like this on social media. Hundreds of paratroopers jumping from planes, soldiers rappelling from a helicopter, infiltrating a building. Impressive stuff. And after the big show, President Trump took to the podium, speaking to hundreds of service members, talking about everything from recent name changes for Fort Bragg to the situation in Los Angeles. WRAL's Sean Gallagher spent the whole day out there at Fort Bragg. He joins us now live. Let's start with the name change part of this and some of the things the president had to say about that and some of his other remarks to the soldiers out there today.
Yeah, Dan, basically anytime that Trump has come to the state in the last year or so, he has mentioned Fort Bragg and that he wanted to change the name back to Fort Bragg. You may remember earlier this year, he made good on that promise. After only about 2 years that Fort Liberty was the name change here, he is switching it back to Bragg. And you might remember that when they made the switch and made the announcement earlier this year, they were saying it was actually after Private First Class Roland Bragg, not the Confederate Braxton Bragg that it was originally named after, but it's that history of the name that the president harped on during the speech today.
Every inch of this base is steeped in the legacy of those warriors who have said with pride, "Sir, I trained at Fort Bragg, sir." That was pretty cool. And that is why we restored the historic name of this very, very special place. I don't know if it could be the same place. Fort Bragg is in, that's the name. And Fort Bragg, it shall always remain. That's never going to be happening again.
And Fort Bragg won't be the only one. The president mentioned at least 7 other bases that had former Confederate leader names that he says they will be reverting back to.
Sean, he spoke for about an hour. He touched on a lot of topics. The president did talk about the situation in Los Angeles, that the country and world is watching protests over ICE raids that have turned violent there. He's deployed the National Guard as well as Marines, and tonight he stood by those decisions, which we expected to hear, as more protests there are, of course, expected tonight, maybe tomorrow. Who knows when it'll end?
Yeah, Dan, of course, he spent a lot of time pumping up the Army for its birthday, but a big portion of that speech was talking about what is going on in Los Angeles, a lot of destructive protests where, we've seen a lot of damage that was done there. He actually called back to the destruction, you might remember, after the George Floyd protests in Minneapolis, saying that he wanted to do something different this time.
Where I've deployed thousands of National Guard troops and hundreds of Marines to protect federal law enforcement from the attacks of a vicious and violent mob. And some of the radical left, they say, oh, that's not nice. Well, if we didn't do it, there wouldn't be a Los Angeles. It would be burning today, just like their houses were burning a number of months ago. Generations of Army heroes did not shed their blood on distant shores only to watch our country be destroyed by invasion and third world lawlessness here at home, like is happening in California. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not let that happen. It's never going to happen.
Now, part of these protests include people burning the American flag, something the president says he wants to outlaw, make punishable by up to a year in jail. Only problem with that is the Supreme Court actually took that into consideration back in 1989, and it's actually protected under the First Amendment as symbolic speech.
So quickly, this show of force that was being demonstrated today, we've seen some new videos now giving us a closer look at all of it. Give us an idea of what Trump had to say about that part of the display today.
Yeah, well, before we talk about Trump, I spoke to a number of soldiers that were here that said this was even impressive to them. It's something that they don't get to see a lot of. But the president really harped on, how much of a speed and presence and power that all of this was. You're talking 600 paratroopers who all leapt out of 11 different airplanes. There was precision artillery shelling that we saw. There were even situations, operations almost, that we were seeing demonstrated there today. And all of this was to show that force that America is capable of, and that is why the president mentioned that they're investing so much money, $1 trillion, into the armed services.
We spend so much money on things that we shouldn't be spending it on, but I think those days are stopping, Mr. Senators and congressmen that are with us. As part of our one big, beautiful bill, we are also investing over $1 billion to update your on-base housing. And we're building a state-of-the-art missile defense shield to protect our homeland. And it's called the Golden Dome. It's going to be all made in America.
Part of that also includes increases in pay for all military members. Of course, that brought a lot of applause.
All right, some big updates from the president's visit here today. Sean Gallagher, we appreciate all the updates. Be safe getting home. So we talked to some state Democrats today as well. They met with some veterans and military families in Fayetteville. They're arguing against some of the federal tax cuts that they've seen from the Trump administration. They also shared their concerns about the president's military parade on Saturday to honor the Army's 250th birthday. It has a multi-million-dollar price tag, between $25 and $45 million, some estimates. They're also accusing him of using it to celebrate his own 79th birthday.
It's politicizing our armed forces in a way that I don't think we've seen a former president do, at least to this extent. And I also believe that it's a lavish birthday party that he's throwing for himself. To the point that Dr. Andrews made earlier, I don't think he cares about anybody else but himself.
Now, we should say the president's birthday landing on Saturday could be just a coincidence, of course. The U.S. Army was founded on June 14th, 1775, making Saturday its official 250th birthday, celebrations we would have seen be celebrated by any president, admittedly in different ways, but celebrated nonetheless on that day. Today was the kickoff event for a week of celebrations, and the president made no mention of his own birthday during his one-hour speech. So we do have to shift gears here a bit for some other stuff you're interested in. Forecast that we have to pay attention to as storms are on their way in tonight. Kat, there is a level 1 risk out of 5 for some severe weather.
And that holds off for another couple of hours. So this is going to be another one of those nights where it's really at night that we see the storms instead of just during the afternoon. RDU looking pretty good right now. No issues if you are flying out tonight. The storms are still well west of our area, but they're slowly inching a bit closer. It really is looking more like they would be here closer to 9, 10, 11 o'clock tonight as they move in from the west. And I want to stress, not everybody will see rain tonight, but some of us are likely to see some rain, some thunder and lightning. That should be out of here by the time you wake up tomorrow morning. It's a level 1 out of 5 threat for severe storms today and tonight. Keep in mind, these are extremely common during the months of June, July, and August. The primary threat, 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, as well as some lightning. But this cold front finally moves on along tomorrow. I'll explain which areas could see a stray storm tomorrow and which day this week we could see a heat index near 100 coming up.
Thank you, Kat. So crime appears to be trending down in Raleigh so far this year. That's according to Police Chief Rico Boyce. Today, he shared the latest crime statistics with City Council, comparing overall crime numbers with what we saw last year. Aaron Thomas is live outside of Raleigh City Hall. Aaron, the downward trend is some good news, but there are still some concerns.
That's correct, Dan. In fact, we heard from Chief Boyce, who spoke here at City Hall just a few hours ago. Here were some of the numbers that stood out to us. So when it comes to homicides, those have held steady as of today. So we're talking 15, saw that same number around the same time last year. Now, there have been a decrease in the number of stolen vehicles, but we're still seeing an increase in the number of robberies. We've seen a 19% increase from last year. So Chief Boyce actually called this a challenging area, specifically when it comes to the robbery of people as well as specific businesses like banks or some of those stores that stay open late. He adds that this is a citywide problem. It's not just one particular neighborhood or a particular area where these robberies occur, but places open late, they see the most activity. During his 45-minute presentation, some of the city council members, they learned about different crime reduction strategies, such as the use of technologies. We spoke with Chief Boyce following this presentation, and he tells me it's all about being intentional about the placement of resources and different officers and getting all violent crime to trend downward.
So it's all about being intentional and focusing on all those violent crimes that contribute to the overall safety of our city. So I'm not just focusing on one, we're going to focus on all of them.
Now, he did add that we are seeing a downward trend in the number of aggravated assaults, and he pointed to different initiatives like Cops on the Block and different community engagement practices in hopes of building transparency and trust throughout Raleigh.
So, Aaron, RPD also mentioned something about a summer action plan that they just took effect. Can you describe a little bit about what that is, what they're talking about with that?
Yeah, so this is something that was presented new to the council members by Chief Boyce, and this was actually just put into effect at the start of this month. So June 1st runs through August 30th. You think about all the people that come to visit Raleigh around this time of the year. You have children that are out of school, and so he says his main goal is to go through the summer with as little or no crime as possible. And he has 3 different objectives and practices that he wants to do to help make your neighborhood safe. We'll have all that and more starting at 10 on Fox 50. Dan?
All right. Sounds good. Aaron, thank you. So let's get you caught up on some of today's other big headlines. These are the 5 things you should know right now. Over at the state capitol, protesters stood outside and inside the legislative building protesting against a bill requiring state and local government agencies to 580 human trafficking cases were reported in North Carolina just last year, though they always say that many of them are never reported. A new state law addresses this problem, training people who work in hotels to know what to watch out for. WRAL's Destiny Patterson explains how that's going to work.
Hotels are one of the most popular places for sex trafficking, behind homes and illegal spas and massage businesses. Now a new state law is laying out new training and reporting requirements to make it easier for employees to spot. Typically a place to get away for a little while, hotels can also be the location for human traffickers to take their victims.
They're moving quickly. They don't want to be detected.
It also might look like a person who wants to have a room that's next to an exit stairwell or overlooking the parking lot or something. So there's a lot of indicators that people don't think about.
The new law aims to change that. It would require property managers and hotel staff to take approved training, report suspected human trafficking, and put up signs for awareness.
Those who clean rooms, those who serve food, those who check folks into hotels, anybody who has interactions with hotel guests.
Lynn Minges with the State Restaurant and Lodging Association points out that many in the hotel industry already require their employees to take training.
This law just makes it official.
It also includes short-term rentals like Airbnb or VRBO, another resource Nikki Miller says predators are using.
I would always suggest installing cameras outdoors so they can see who is coming and going from their property.
That new law goes into effect July 1st, and if people don't comply, it could lead to fines of hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Destiny Patterson, WRAL News, Raleigh.
Now, human trafficking is something we have talked about a lot here at 7 o'clock. Earlier this year, we spoke to John Webster from the Child Advocacy Center, and he said that the internet, of course, is a big reason behind this problem.
It's not just for any certain branch of the population or group or anything like that. This is going across all socioeconomic levels, all races, all backgrounds. And these guys and ladies that are in this business of human trafficking, they're smart and they're very good at what they do. They're apparently becoming increasingly good at what they do.
And WRAL, again, has done extensive reporting in general on this topic, including a web original series on the topic. It's called This is Human Trafficking, and it explores what to look out for, how and where victims are targeted. And you can find, it's a 5-part series. You can find it on WRAL.com. All right, Kat Campbell joining us now. We got some storms moving in tonight. This has been a little trend for us. We have a decent looking day, and then the weather kind of comes in while everyone's sleeping.
And that's what you're going to see a lot of days this summer. When you see the thunderstorm icon on the 7-day forecast, you've just got to remember these are more summertime storms. There are likely to be a lot more dry hours most days than wet hours. We've got one storm that we're watching right now in Concord. That one previously had a severe thunderstorm warning. That warning has been allowed to expire. Nothing in our viewing area at the moment. We will continue to monitor radar trends and let you know if that changes. Let's talk about the future radar over the next 2 hours. This is an exclusive tool that we have here at WRAL, and you can see that storm moving a bit closer to Moore County by 9:30, but those storms are still not likely to be anywhere near the triangle until closer to 10-11 o'clock. And these are going to be scattered in nature, these storms that move in tonight. It's all thanks to this cold front that's hanging out nearby. Once that moves to our east, it's going to take the better chance of storms with it toward the coast tomorrow. So tomorrow, the best chance for rain and storms will be at the coast, still scattered summertime type of stuff. Around here, it's about a 30% chance of a pop-up storm. So the chance you'll see one at your house, relatively low. The chance may end up being a little bit higher toward Cumberland and Sampson and Wayne counties, the southeastern part of our area. But it's drier in the mountains and it's hot tomorrow. 91 degrees, our forecast high in Raleigh. And then it gets hotter and more humid. Storm chances go back up for the weekend. Let's talk about Father's Day weekend. It is going to be very humid. It may feel like a sauna outside. Dew points will be in the low to mid 70s. It's the worst that we've had really this season, especially with a 90-degree heat. Storms return primarily during the afternoon and evening. Again, these are going to be more of your summertime storms. Just find a way to stay cool with Dad this weekend. If you do have a garden going or new grass that you need to keep watered, you may need to do that at some point tomorrow or Thursday, especially since it's going to be so hot outside. I know my hydrangeas at home, they just constantly need water unless there's a decent amount of rain. By the weekend, there's a good chance that you'll see some rain over the course of the weekend days. It's 79 in Fayetteville, where it did rain earlier today to help bring the temperature down. 83 in Durham and Raleigh. The Bulls are back in town, and tomorrow is, I think it's called Whisker Wednesday, where you can bring your cat out to the DBAP. So I am really looking forward to doing that, and or not me doing that, but watching that during our 7 o'clock newscast tomorrow here on WRAL. I've just got to check out the cameras. Supposedly the cats have to be in a carrier or on a leash, but I can't wait to see how that kind of plays out. In the meantime, it's going to be hot. It's going to be humid for the next 7 days, but Saturday is when our heat index could be closer to 100 degrees.
I was watching a video you posted on Instagram on the Reels, just explaining what this humidity is really going to feel like, and we need to be ready.
You got to be ready. I mean, it's going to be a pretty bad feeling by the time we get to the weekend. Today, our least hot day of the week, so hopefully you enjoyed it.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kat. Hey, one last thing before we go tonight. A popular cereal trend has reached Wake County. One elementary school using it for good. Up next. One last thing before we go. Maybe you've seen this trend on social media. Kids are setting up a huge domino chain at school, but they don't use dominoes, they use cereal boxes, and some of these videos have millions of views online. Well, the trend has reached Wake County schools. So students at Dillard Drive Magnet Elementary School, they brought in 700 cereal boxes for this big domino chain, but it wasn't about the trend really. It was about feeding hungry families. This was a cereal drive. And that domino chain just demonstrated how one person's efforts can create a ripple effect.
I want them to remember that we are impacting families. Every time they see a box fall, it's another family that gets fed.
Well done, well designed also. You see how excited all the kids were? I think this is it's gonna have the impact they were hoping. And some of the cereal will be distributed to the families there at Dillard Drive. The rest will be donated to Urban Ministries. It's a great idea. My kids would love that. Thank you for joining us here on WRAL and making us your choice for local news. We got our next newscast at 10 o'clock on Fox 50, and then we'll see you back here at 11 on WRAL. Have a great night.
watching WRAL News over the air channel 34 and Spectrum channel 1257.